Hey everyone, thanks again for joining me on another special virtual visit edition of the Traveling in Ireland broadcast. Today I am chatting with Ruth Kelly of Walk Dublin Tours, and we're going to talk a little bit about the tours she does, give you a little bit of a view of those tours, and Ruth is going to tell us why she started doing these tours. So Ruth, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Well, hi, Jodie. Thank you for the opportunity and a warm welcome from sunny Dublin. I was considering doing this outside, but then I thought the light would be all a bit too much. Yeah, we're not used to having sunshine here.
You've had a beautiful spring. I mean, you really have.
We really have. We really have. Yeah, it's been remarkable, and we have been remarking on it. It's great to have a back garden when we're indoors quite a lot. So, a little bit about Dublin. Dublin is quite quiet at the moment, but things are working very well. All of the supply chains to the supermarkets are working. Um, all of the frontline staff are there. Where at the moment, my mother is doing a voluntary thing, getting PPEs out, and a sister of mine is working on trials. So we're quite positive here about how things are going to pan out, and we're really trying our best to do the right thing.
Being positive, I think, is one of the best. I mean, it's one of the best precautions you can take against,
Yeah,
maybe that fear and that hopelessness setting in, just to go forward and, do what you can. It's
yeah,
just so important. And I like to hear that the outlook, people are feeling positive because in a time like this, especially in an area that does really rely on tourists and tourism,
hugely.
it can be a little, I don't
Yes.
discerning, I get, or not
Yeah.
discerning, that's a bad word, but just distressing maybe,
Mm.
um, when you look forward.
Well, they say that absent or laughter is the best medicine, and in the absence of a vaccine, this is going to have to do us well. So we're cheering each other up. Lots of silly things going on. Lots of people dancing around their kitchens, sending it out on Instagram, on WhatsApp, and everyone is having a good giggle. So that is important.
It is. So Ruth, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do with Walk Dublin?
Sure. So I set up my own walking tour, which is called Walk Dublin, probably because I walk around Dublin, with an aim to do specific bespoke tours, because there was a lot of general tours around, and I just wanted to give something a little bit different. So I have three tailored tours, one specifically for families, which is called Mostly Medieval, and it's a light take on the Dark Ages. So it's all about the sights, the sounds, and most importantly, the smells of the Dark Ages.
The smells of the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
How do you recreate that?
Well, some children sing Molly Malone. We go to the Fish Street and we imagine what it would be like, particularly on a Friday, because back in medieval times, everyone was very Christian. So everybody ate fish on a Friday, and they just tried to imagine what it was like to see so many fish being sold when the temperature got warm and when the rats are running around underneath. They go, "Wow, this is brilliant!" And then we say alive, alive, oh, just like our
Oh,
Dublin.
oh, that's fun. I like the idea of a family-centric tour. You don't
Yeah.
see a lot of those, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it is. There's no specifically family organized tour or specific aspect that children can really get involved in. And I've got a little download that people can take if they want to do a treasure hunt in between. It just depends. Everybody is different. Some children read a lot, so they've got a very long concentration span. Others don't. So a treasure hunt is good for them. And then I have a specific tour for the under sevens, which is only 45 minutes long, and it's called the Mini Rats Tour.
Rat,
So, rats,
rats.
yeah, just like the plague. Yeah. And they love it. And there's a cute picture of two little baby rats lying out having a stretch on the bed.
Does
So
does I have to know, does the rat tour talk about the rat in Christchurch at all or no?
sometimes we do. Yeah. They call it the Tom and Jerry in Christchurch. Yeah. The way the rat got stuck in the organ and then the cat went in and they both dried out.
Yes. Oh my
Mummified.
goodness.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Some people
So
really like that.
it's unique for sure.
Yeah. So that's how it's really fun. And there's a lot of history. We talk a lot about the Norman invasion and Vikings, and we talk about going in longboats. And it the idea is that there's no wrong answer. You know, I'll ask questions as and when that suit children that they're enjoying. And sometimes they don't open up until towards the end of the tour. Like it's the main one is a 90-minute tour, but sometimes they're really enjoying it. So we'll go on for 100 minutes. And then by the end of it, they've got loads of ideas and they're asking me questions. And then I'm like, yay, they really got involved. So that's fantastic.
And it's always fun, especially when you travel with children, to see the interest
Yeah.
and then to have that interaction. I love the fact that you are doing those family-centric tours, but you do a couple others as well.
I do indeed. Yeah. So I have the next one is a concept of home. Everybody sees these grand houses, and I'll send you some clips of some houses on Merrion Square and on Henrietta Street. And they imagine what people's lives would have been like inside those big wide doors. So, for example, in Georgian houses, the doors are particularly wide because people, ladies, wore huge hoops and panniers. So, if they had a modern sized door, they'd have had to turn around and walk in sideways. So, this tour is about how people lived, so how different external factors affected internal lives. And Henrietta Street is on Dublin 1. It's just opposite our tenement museum. And it's a story of how a grand house where there was just one Georgian family and a couple of servants became a huge tenement. And every single room was divided in three. And in one house, I'll send you the link of it. The worst house on the street had 19 families and nearly 120 people living there. So it was really tough.
That is just the change in that area was really dramatic.
Yeah,
But I like the fact that you're taking in those questions that when people look at the building and they think, I wonder why, the windows get smaller as they go up, or,
yeah,
the size of the door, or,
yeah,
the glass over the door. There are so many little intricacies about the way
yeah.
houses were built at that time that all had a purpose.
They all did. And one of the big things people are interested in is window tax. Why did it start? How long did it last? And it started with a king called William of Orange. So we get the orange in our flag from him. And the more windows you had, the more tax you paid. And often people felt that the bigger the windows, the more tax. It wasn't the volume, it was just the number. So the more important floors had a higher level of windows. So the ground floor, so you go up the stairs, and in Ireland, we start at 0. In the States, you start at 1. So you go up the stairs and you're on the ground floor. And then you go up again and you're on the first floor. And that first floor has the highest floor to ceiling span, as that was the most important part of the house. That was where all the entertainment happened, where the business would happen. There were large family get-togethers, and then there were different people from politics coming to meet there because we had a very important parliament right up until the end of the 1700s. So the tour, taking a micro view, pans out every now and again to what is happening in Ireland. So, for example, when our parliament closed, all of the parliamentarians moved to London. So Dublin, being the second wealthiest city when it was back in the British Empire, becomes incredibly poor. And then when we have the famine, there's no decision makers on site to be able to make decisions, alleviate hardship. And so wave upon wave of poor people come to Dublin and flood out the city. And we have, okay, so we talked about the Black Death, the plague, and the children. So we talk about the cholera epidemic then in 1847. And sometimes we bring a bit of Bram Stoker into that, because Bram Stoker was born in 1847. And his mum told him lots of stories. So he got loads and loads of inspiration for bats and Dracula and so forth. So
Oh my
that's,
goodness.
yeah.
So fun. I love your take. I love the way you're looking at everything, and really, like you said, the lighthearted look. I love that. It must be just a great way to look at things that when people think back to them are really dark and dismal days.
Yeah, well, you'd have to take a light-hearted look on things, or it'd be a very depressing tour. Now, generally on this tour, we stop off for a coffee because there's loads of little cute places along the way. And then people have a little chance to unwind. And if there are children, all of my tours, children are welcome, very much so. Or anyone who's disabled or anyone older, we can just alter the pace. And generally I have 10 or less people because I like to keep it small and intimate. And then we'll go from there to the far side, and we'll go to much more positive, busy side of Dublin. So we'll look at little parts of Temple Bar. So for example, where the Clarence Hotel is, it's on a quay called Wellington Quay after the Duke of Wellington. That used to be called Custom House Quay. And that was where the port of Dublin was located. And the river Hoddle used, and an inlet from the River Liffey more or less met there, and all the ships could line up. And then all of a sudden they decided to close the port, move it up a bit further, and then the inlet was closed and the direction of the houses changed entirely. So they were facing east and then it changed to be west. Crazy.
I think that's one of the fun things about Dublin is that it wasn't it was built for commerce, and it
Yeah,
was built for small traffic, and it
yeah,
still retains that feel.
yeah.
If you try to drive in Dublin, it's an awful maze. And some of the streets you think, oh my gosh, that's not a street, it's an alleyway, but no, it's a true street. And yeah, it's and it still retains all that history. There wasn't a lot of tear down to make it more modern, and I think that that is just one of the most charming things about the city.
Yeah. Then the third tour, to move on eventually, because I don't want to keep you too long. The third tour is a fun tour. It's a history of coffee culture, and it can be either coffee or tea. But most people think that Dublin was the center of tea drinking. And we did and do still drink a lot of tea. But tea was incredibly expensive. And as you would know, in America with the Boston Tea Party, huge taxation going on. So what did we do? It was just the aristocratic ladies who drank tea at home, and it was an amazing way of showing their wealth. So the gentlemen of commerce would meet in coffee houses, and the coffee houses began in the late 1600s and went on well into the 1700s, and some even persisted until the early 1800s. So these were where people did their business. Most of them were situated near Wellington Quay. So you had, that was the port. That was where people were able to see what was coming into the city. They could set prices. And so what is now City Hall was originally the site of a coffee house called Lucas Coffee House. So we begin there, and we hear about Lucas because everybody could see the ships coming in. This was where our stock exchange was organized. Then there was another coffee house just beside it, and that was a bookseller. Another was a place for auctions. And the man who started the development in 1700s Dublin, Mr. Gardner, Luke Gardner, who started Henrietta Street that I was just talking about, he had to sell land to get some money to get himself going. And that happened in a coffee house. So then we go around. It's a really gentle walk. That is ideal if you've come in and you're just tired, but you want to see everything at a very nice pace. And then we go to an old 1700s building. So in Dublin, we call the 1700s the Georgian era, because there were a lot of kings called George. One or two of them did speak English, and at least one went mad. So the Georgian era is a time when Dublin was at its wealthiest, apart from when we were in the late 90s up to 2008, and then hopefully again. So this was when a lot of the city was built, and many of the architects built a lot of the very prominent buildings. So all of the action, all the activity was going to happen in that time. So we go into this house, this Georgian house, and we make up different coffees. So coffee was also expensive. It wasn't as expensive as tea, but many people had never tried coffee before. So there were coffees and coffee substitutes. And the task is to try and see if you can taste the real brew or you can taste the substitute.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Wow. So when people are visiting Dublin and they want to take one of these unique tours, how is the best way for them to get in touch with you to arrange a booking?
Couple of different ways. I have a Facebook page. It's Walk Dublin Bespoke Tours on that. I have an Instagram page, which is Walk Dublin. My website is walkdublin.ie. And I'm also on Airbnb Experience. So
oh, excellent.
If anyone wants to see reviews on that, they can. There's a lot of reviews. Thank goodness. And but they can just they can call me on WhatsApp if they want a bit more information, or they can email me. All my information is on the website.
And I will link all of those in the show notes. Oh,
okay.
A little bit of feedback there. I will link all of those in the show notes so people can have very quick access to it. And you have, I know that your Instagram you're very active on Instagram, so there's a lot for people to see and learn there.
Yeah.
And are there any, I know that we're going to overlay some images and some video of our chat over our chat so people can get that as well. Now, did you say you were doing some virtual tours as well, or is that not happening right now?
No, I can't. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to go further than 2 kilometers. But I have taken a whole ream of footage, and I've been doing a different story every day on Instagram. And I'm going to send you some of that footage. The virtual tours, I've just been working out some areas that work and some areas that don't. So I think it might need a bit of time compression to go from a busy area to the next. So I've been just trying to work it out. I haven't got to grips fully with it, but once I'm out and active, I am going to put on the YouTube. I've started a Walk Dublin YouTube channel. It's only got about 5 pieces at the moment, but we'll get there, and I'll put much longer pieces, and then you'll be able to link in from that as well, and then get a longer tour. But yeah, I think it will work now. It will work once we get this the lockdown opened out. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Oh,
You're
no, it was so great to chat with you.
Yeah.
And again, Ruth has really active Instagram. It sounds like YouTube is going to be great. So if you want a look at Dublin, again, I'll have all the links in the show notes, and do check out Ruth. And then the next time you get there, give her a call or give her an email, give her a call on WhatsApp, and set up a tour, because gosh, those sound like so much fun.
That's great. Thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye now.